Hello everyone and welcome, it's Shanna. Now today I'm going to be working with this Cowboy Quokka stamp set, the Cowboy Quokka Ephemera, and I've got some Cowboy Quokka 6x6 premium cardstock that's patterned, and I'm going to use it. And I'm also going to use the stencil that goes along with this set. There's a couple other dies and stamp sets that go with it as well, but I'm going to bring in the Bandana Stencil, and it's in here somewhere. I'm trying to find it. This card that I'm making is for Craft Roulette, and it will be my 90th submission. And the stencil looks like a doily or lace, and that is one of the elements for the parameters this week. We need to make a mini slimline, and that's what this panel is here. I've got it cut down, and I cut it, and I'm going to score it up for the mini slimline, and then we'll begin creating our card. So I've got off to the left there now, I've got some mini slimline dies, and I'm going to use them to die cut out panels that I'm going to layer on this mini slimline. So you can see this die matches the mini slimline size, and I'm going to bring in some black cardstock and die cut out a layer with black, and we'll use it for our base layer on our mini slimline card, and we'll get it laid down on there. And then for that stencil, I'm going to use it to make my next layer. And we're going to bring in Lumberjack Plaid Red ink. And Lumberjack is the color element on the parameters for this week's episode. And so I'm actually going to use a Lumberjack Plaid Red and stencil it up, and that will meet that element. So I'll have my mini slimline parameter mat, and I'll have my lumberjack mat, and then I'll just need, I'll also have my doily or lace mat because of my stencil that I'm using looks like lace or a doily. And then I'll just need to bring in a hat. That was the other parameter on there that I needed to meet. And I was just kind of eyeballing it and seeing how I want it to look. And I'll bring in the hat with my Cowboy Quokka Ephemera, and then I'll have all of my elements met. Now, once I heard the parameters that were on there, it didn't take me very long to know exactly what I wanted to use, because I had recently worked with this set. It's relatively new from Cat Scrappiness. This is where I'm showing you it's Lumberjack Plaid, and I'm going to just get this stenciled up. So this is a relatively new release from Cat Scrappiness, so you can pick it up if you're interested. I will link all of the materials in the description box below with my affiliate links, and if you'll shop with them, it'll certainly help my channel. But it's a really fun set. The pattern paper is really fun as well. And then you've got these ephemera pieces that I show on here later. You've actually got stamps and dies that you can make your own, very similar ones that you could color up yourself rather than using the ephemera, or you can certainly pick up the ephemera in the shop as well. So I'm just going to get good coverage on this stencil, and then we will have our next layer for our card. And I've got red ink on my fingertips. So I think it looks beautiful. I'm going to grab my next die that I'm thinking I'm going to use. And I see I've got some white around the bottom and the top there. So I'm just going to take my blending brush and just kind of blend it in a little bit and just kind of put a little edge on there of red. Just kind of fill in any white spaces. And we'll get this mess cleaned up, and then we'll get this panel die cut out, and then we'll be able to add it to our next layer on our mini slimline card. And I'm going to lay that die down there and eyeball it and get it to where I want it. I'm going to move it to the left because I want to show a good amount of that, what I'm calling a doily or lace, because that's how I'm going to meet that element on my parameters. And I'll just put some pink pixie tape on there just to hold it down. We'll take it to the die cutting machine off to the side, and then we'll just bring it in and get it laid down on there. I think it really pops. That red and white really pops off of that black, and I love it. Anytime I have a red, black, and white combination, I am a happy camper. I just love that combination for cards. Red is my favorite, and I think the black and the white just really pop with it. And I mean, I could stop right there and slap a cinnamon on it, and I think it would look lovely. But I need to bring in that hat element, so I'm going to bring in some of that ephemera. And I'm also actually going to probably bring in some of my pattern paper as well. So here's the ephemera, and I've used up quite a bit of it. I've made several cards for the design team for Cat Scrappiness, and I'm thinking I'm going to use the cowboy and the cowgirl where they're back to back. I think it's super cute. You've got cactus, and you've got sunflowers, and you've got hats and boots, and you've got the cowgirl and the cowboy, and you've also got the cowboy on a horse. Just lots of options there. And you have these in the stamp set as well, if you're into that. Now, this particular stamp set here is the sentiments, and I'm going to be using it to create the sentiment on our card. But as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I want a grounding point for my cowboy and cowgirl. And I've got this strip of pattern paper that was left over from one of the other cards I made. And I'm going to bring in one of those layering dies from the mini Slimline dies and just die cut this piece out and add it to our card for some additional interest and just some, additional dimension to our card. So I'll just take that strip and that die, and we'll go off camera, and we will die cut that out, and then we'll come back in and lay it down on our card. So here it is, and you can see it was a small die. And I immediately knew I wanted to layer it up. So I'm going to grab some black, and I'm going to grab the next up Slimline die. And I'll die cut that out, and then we'll bring it back in, and we will layer those two panels together. And I think that'll look nice on there, and it'll just kind of repeat, that black layer, and then with a red and white panel on it. Now this panel will have red, white, and black on it. And then I'm going to lay it down on there. I thought it just added some additional interest to it. And we'll just make the card a little more interesting. So I'm just going to glue that down. I'm going to try and get it laid down on there straight. And then I decided I wanted a bigger area to ground my cowgirl and cowboy. So I've got one of the stitch scallop circle dies from Cat Scrappiness, and I'm going to use it as the base for my cowgirl and cowboy, and we'll get them laid on there. Now I've got the hats and the boots there, and I was thinking about adding those, but ultimately I'll decide not to do that, and I'll just get my little cowgirl and cowboy laid down on this stitched scallop die, and I'm going to pop the circle up, and I'll actually glue my cowboy and cowgirl to the circle is what we'll do. Just get some foam tape on here, and we'll get it stuck down on our card base. I don't normally make Slimline cards or even mini Slimline cards, so I guess it's kind of fun to do once in a while, but I generally don't make these. But I was super pleased with how this one turned out. So we're just going to get some glue on the back of this ephemera and get it laid down on that circle. And then next we need some embellishments, and we need a sentiment. So I'm just looking at my stamp set, and I'm reading. There's several sentiments on here, just lots of options. Really fun. And I'm going to choose Yeehaw. I think Yeehaw is really fun, and it's the biggest, boldest sentiment that is on this set. So that's why I choose to go with it. And I'm going to get my embossing powder tool and just powder up this black. And then I'll bring in some clear embossing ink and some white embossing powder. And we'll get this stamped up on here. You've got Giddy Up and just all kinds of fun sentiments on there. So I'm just going to bring in an acrylic block and just hand stamp this without the MISTI. I think with this pigment ink, I can get it inked up really well and just stamp it down and then add my embossed powder, and it won't be a big deal. And you can see that it's stamped well on the black. You can see it there on the powder. So I'll just bring in my embossing powder. We'll get some sprinkled down on there, I like to cover it twice, so I'll dump it off and then I'll put it back on, cover it up and dump it off again. Then we'll put the rest of it away and we'll get my heat tool and get this embossed. Okay, so I'm getting it heated up. Just put it there on my hand to see if it was getting warm, and it is good and warm. So we're just going to watch our yeehaw kind of puff up there and come to life. And I'm going to need to wipe the powder off. But before I do that, I think I cut it all down. I'll get it all cut down. I am fanning it to make sure it's good and dry, because if you try to mess with it when it's hot, you're going to smear it. So I'll bring in my guillotine, and we'll just cut the sentiment down, and we'll get it added to our card. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and snip it just close to the exclamation point and the Y. And it's still pretty powdery, so I'm going to use this paper towel. And I'm getting some of it wiped off, but not to the extent that I want. And I'm just kind of looking to see where I want to put it. And I think I'm going to land it there. But I want to get some of this powder cleaned off of there. So I'm just going to lay it aside. I'm going to bring in my water sprayer and just spray some water on there. And then just wipe it off. And that'll clean it up real nice and neat. So it'll be good and crisp and black. And we'll add some foam tape and we'll get this laid down on here. I couldn't find my thin strips, so I just cut a couple small pieces down and stuck them on there, and we'll get this laid down on here. Now I'm going to go off and look for some embellishments, and I've got these red gems that I'm going to use. I've got 2 sizes. I was just looking to see if there's anything else I have, and I'm going to go with red gems and just use some tiny ones and get them stuck down on here. And I'll kind of fight with them. They'll bounce all over the room, and I'll try and look for them, and they'll just kind of jump around. They're like jumping beans. There they go. We'll just get, I don't know, 2 or 3 laid on here, and then we'll lay some on the other side, and then that'll finish up our card. I thought it was super cute. I think it was easy. As soon as I knew the parameters, I knew this was the set I wanted to use, and it all tied together very nicely. You didn't have any weird elements that just didn't make sense. And I thought it came together really nice. If I can get these embellishments laid down, we'll finish this up. Try and get a couple more. Chase a couple more of them around the carrier sheet there. And I felt like I had them stuck to my fingers and my desk, and at one point I thought one flew up in my hair. So I was having a time. So I think it turned out pretty good. I like it. It's super cute. I've got all of my elements made. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.